welcome back to another Giant Slayer TFT Top 10 video. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 items you should consider using in patch 10.16. This patch brought a bunch of item changes that look like they're going to shake up the item meta. We're going to talk about some of those and others to give you ideas to take into the ladder. With that all said, let's jump on in. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come, so be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. Alright, let's get back into the video. Starting things off, we have Shroud of Stillness coming in as the number 10 item on today's list. Shroud became a staple item of the previous meta with almost every player in a lobby having at least one. It wasn't uncommon to see some players run two of them either. But the popularity and strength of Shroud caused it to receive a nerf in 10.16. The mana increase effect of the item is now only 30% instead of 40%. It's a common reaction to shy away from something that just got nerfed, so we wanted to address Shroud right away on the top of today's list. So never fear, we're here to tell you that Shroud is still incredibly effective. In fact, it may even have more use in 10.16 with the way the meta is beginning to form. Rebels are in hot demand, and one of the weaknesses of Rebels is that they need to be clumped up to make use of the trait. That makes them an easy target for Shroud. Mech is also seemingly doing well and possibly a staple composition in 10.16, and Shroud is both good on the mech and against it. We definitely recommend you continue trying out Shroud in 10.16. Next up is an item that received a fairly large buff in the patch. We're of course talking about Swordbreaker, which is coming in at number 9 on the list. If you're unfamiliar with this item, which is certainly possible because it's likely the least used item in TFT, let's quickly talk about what it does. Swordbreaker has a chance to disarm the enemy that your champion is attacking for 3 seconds. Before, it was a 25% chance, but after the buff, it's now a whopping 33%, which is why we wanted to highlight it, as it's now maybe not an amazing item, but at least playable. When would you look to use Swordbreaker? First, let's go over what it really does. Disarm literally means that the enemy champion can't attack, but what that actually means is twofold. It can attack, thus dealing no damage, but it also can't gain mana via attacking. That means even if you can't disarm a backline carry, you're still going to get value by slowing down an enemy champion from gaining mana. That means you want to spread out the disarm effect as much as possible, which means, you guessed it, blasters. Blasters are by far the best champions to slap a disarm on. Make sure that it's not on your primary carry, as disarm inherently doesn't do damage, it's just a utility item. But give it to a secondary carry or another blaster and enjoy, as the spread effect of the trait disarms multiple champions. Moving along, we have Zephyr as the number 8 item. Zephyr, as usual, is a staple utility item of any meta. That's unchanged in 10.16 and thus something you should certainly consider making when possible. Of course, there are a few extra reasons why it may be viable in 10.16, so let's go over those. As mentioned earlier, Rebels and Mech are poised to be the top compositions in the new meta, and they are both susceptible to Zephyr. If the Mech player doesn't have Quicksilver, it's the freest Zephyr of your entire life. Even if they do have Quicksilver, you can still Zephyr an important backline champion or infiltrator. Rebels have a few targets that you can try to lift up. Jinx, of course, is the best target, as disabling her right away slows down how quickly she gets resets by a significant margin. But lifting up a frontline champion, usually Gangplank later on in the game, and Rumble early can really mess up the positioning of the Rebel player. Regardless of the composition you're playing against, Zephyr is an item that almost always gets value. Static Shiv is next and coming in at number 7. Shiv is another item that received changes in the newest patch. While the base damage was lowered, they compensated it by making it do extra damage to a target that is either crowd controlled or has a shield. That may already have you thinking about what champion or composition this item is good for and against. The most obvious is going to be against protectors, as they are a trait with the most reliable shields. Throw a Shiv on your carry if it looks like the lobby is going to have multiple protector players and enjoy the free true damage. Otherwise, you're going to be playing for the crowd control aspect of the item. Keep in mind, basically any CC that is blocked by Quicksilver will work for Shiv. So attack speed slowing effects, disarm, stuns, etc. are all possible ways to get the extra damage. Echo is possibly the best champion to give Shiv to, as he can proc the effect himself due to the attack speed slow of his ultimate. Ashe is another potential user, as her ultimate at level 2 is a 3-second stun. And lastly, since we mentioned disarmed, you can possibly use the combination of Shiv and Swordbreaker with blasters. Basically, experiment, see what works best, and go from there. Moving right along, we have Frozen Heart as the number 6 item on the list. Frozen Heart is a powerful item that often gets ignored. A big reason for that is that the components, Tear and Chain Vest, are used elsewhere on a lot of other items. That means it may not always be a great idea to try to make a Frozen Heart, plus it depends on what champions you have, so overall it's more of a niche item. We're highlighting it here for 2 separate reasons. First is that it has a lot of potential when paired with Static Shiv. The slowing effect of the item counts as CC for the extra damage of Shiv. That opens up a lot of interesting champion combinations. For example, if you're running, let's say, Battlecast, you can have Nocturne with Frozen Heart and Kog'Maw with Shiv. You'll have chances to get the extra Shiv damage because of Nocturne in the backline. The second reason we're talking about Frozen Heart is how great it is against immobile carries. In particular, we mean Jinx. Jinx is looking to be a top carry in 10-16, and Frozen Heart is extremely good against her. The attack speed slow will slow her reset potential by a large amount, as well as lowering her overall DPS. Plus, she's really easy to get an infiltrator on, or at least nearby, as she's often predictable in the spots that she's in due to rebels. All in all, Frozen Heart isn't an item that we recommend you make every game, but it can be powerful in the right circumstance. Giant Slayer is the name of this channel, and also the next item on our list at number 5. We're recommending Giant Slayer because of one main reason: Mech. Mech has been doing well in the 10-16 meta, so it's a great time to prioritize making Giant Slayer for your carry. The reason is that Giant Slayer is great against high health targets because it does bonus true damage. Honestly, without a Giant Slayer on your auto attack carry, you're going to struggle really hard at dealing with the mech. A secondary reason for Giant Slayer being so valuable in the upcoming meta is that Brawlers may become the second best frontline option in 10-16. Protectors seem to be on the decline, and with Jinx being a top carry again, it means the value of Brawlers is going up. With their value going up, so does Giant Slayers. This is good against high health targets. We expect to see this item become a staple for physical damage carries in 10-16. Alright, let's move on to the next item. The number 4 item on our list is the Hextech Gunblade. Unfortunately, Gunblade hasn't been a particularly good item for quite some time. There's been a few times in previous sets where it was valuable, but so far in set 3, it has not done well, even after it was buffed to heal more a few patches ago. In 10-16, they buffed it once again, but this time they added an overheal effect. This means that when the champion that has the item does enough damage to heal above their health, they will get up to 400 additional shield health. Right away, you may be thinking, who is this even good on? Basically, any high spell damage champions get value from it, particularly those that cast often. By far the best champion will be Jace. Jace has a strong AoE ability on top of him being a Vanguard, meaning he's difficult to kill. Throw him in the front line and he's guaranteed to get value from the new Gunblade. Other champions worth considering in the early game are Ziggs, Rumble, or in the later game, Aurelion Sol. But don't let us stop you there, try out other spell damage champions as well. Just use the criteria of a quick cast with decently high damage, and you should find value from running Gunblade. Next, we have Ionic Spark as the number 3 item on today's list. Ionic Spark, despite being nerfed a few patches ago, has remained a versatile item in the meta. Overall, it's just good because it fits in so many compositions, and in 10-16, that's likely to remain true. Even more so in the new meta, as you're going to see a shift towards hybrid damage. Examples include Jinx and Mechs, but importantly, Gangplank. Gangplank loves to have Ionic Spark as it makes him a frontline shredder when his ultimate goes off. He also received a significant buff in this patch, making him a core champion for Rebels in addition to any mech build. Outside of those instances, Ionic is great for blasters because most of the blasters do hybrid damage. Same goes for Battlecast, as it's a mixed damage composition that leans more towards magic damage. Basically, Ionic Spark is an easy item to slam early on in the game that's guaranteed to get you value throughout the rest of the game. Guardian Angel is up next as the number 2 item. Guardian Angel is hands down the most reliable defensive item in the game currently. Whether it's for your frontline or your backline carry, it's going to be valuable. There's really only one specific reason as to why, in 1016, it's going to have increased value, and that's because of Rebels. We're definitely hyping up Rebels a lot today, but it's for good reason, as they have already been dominating the ladder as a top build with Jinx. But Rebels also need a good front line, and that's where Guardian Angel swoops in. Both Rumble and Gangplank absolutely need to have a GA because it guarantees that their abilities will go off at least once in a fight, and that's incredibly important for Rebel comps. Gangplank specifically wants this item, as casting his ultimate at least once will be enough to win the round a lot of the time. Besides those two, it's also not bad on Jinx. It helps prevent her from being one-shot by a random spell, or if a pesky infiltrator manages to get onto her. It's not necessarily a top item for her, but definitely the best defensive one. Keep in mind it's a great item in other compositions and on other champions as well. We may be hyping up Rebels, but Guardian Angel is still an amazing defensive item for almost any build. And the last item for today, coming in at number 1 on the list, is Hand of Justice. Hand of Justice is another item that got buffed in 1016, but it was buffed in a very interesting way. Previously, the item only healed on hit, meaning it only mattered when the champion was auto-attacking. Now it will do Omni Vamp, meaning it heals both physical damage basic attacks and spell damage abilities for 50%. So what does this change for Hand of Justice? Well, now it's amazing on any champion that can do hybrid damage. The Super Mech, for example, has a high base attack damage with a powerful ability, meaning it heals a lot per auto attack with a big chunk of healing when its ultimate goes off. Jinx is another example, as her rockets should count towards the healing, meaning she'll heal a lot once she gets enough resets. The amount of champions this item is good on has increased by a lot with just one simple change. It may not be the best item on every carry, but a lot of the time it's going to be a great second item to make because it provides good stats, can roll extra damage, and can roll into good healing now. Previously, it was just a 50-50 hoping that you got the damage boost, as the healing effect was lackluster. We recommend trying this item out in 1016, so make sure you're securing those tiers and those gloves. Alright folks, that is all we have for you for today. We hope this top 10 list of items to try out in the new meta will help you in your climb in ranked. This meta is always evolving, so it's not guaranteed that some of these items will remain relevant. Let us know in the comment section below if there's any items you think should have been on the list. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer TFT videos.